guy and ran a pretty tight ship, and I was happy to be here.
He really taught us the basics in every facet of the game. It started with putting on your socks.
Cotton on the inside, put that on first, smooth it out very carefully, make sure there are no bubbles in it, and then put on a heavy wool sock over it.
There was no room for them to get wrinkled underneath your feet so you get blisters, but also how to tie your shoe. His main concern with doing our shoes was to avoid blisters. And it's funny because I have a 12-year-old that I just had to, re-instruct for the 20th time on how to tie his shoe. Lace them up from the bottom up, make sure there's no slack. His shoes always come loose during the game. Dude, tie your shoes up. So he started just tying them haphazard. I said, no. You got to start at the bottom, pull each shoestring up 2 at a time, tight, all the way to the top. And I thought about that. I didn't say it to him, but that's the way Coach Wooden taught us.
Coach Wooden did all of his work during the week. His canvas was teaching us during the week, and he loved that time of practice.
Practices under Coach Wooden were a combination of a couple of things. They were very intense and very focused and very competitive would be a good word to use. But they were also fun. He was a guy who always felt, I think, that we were inclined to coddle ourselves and make it easy on ourselves. And so he wanted to push us to excellence.
He prepared 2 hours every morning or 2.5 hours for our 2.5-hour practice every afternoon. He was totally prepared. He had these little 3x5 cards.
It was all written down on a 3x5 card. He kept them in the pocket of his jacket. And he'd blow the whistle and send us into our first drills.
So it was like this. He'd blow that whistle and we needed to be there. And then he'd blow the whistle 5 minutes later and we needed to be there.
And it would just go from one drill to the next the whole time.
We did things like imaginary shooting drills where you'd have an imaginary basketball and you'd shoot the ball, this imaginary ball, and work on your form, work on your follow-through and your rotation. And you had to see the ball kind of going through the hoop. So the whistle would blow, we'd shoot. Whistle would blow, we'd shoot this imaginary ball. And Coach was, he was into it like it was a real ball. Just make sure you hold it here and make sure you get the rotation. You got to put your finger right on the hole here and go through the whole thing. But in my mind, I want to say, Coach, but there's no ball. I don't know there's no ball.
His concern was always to get the maximum out of what we had to work with. You can't put in what God left out, but you can seek to at least maximize what God put in.
And then when we got to the games, we would meet beforehand. He would tell us, just to do our best, play together. And then he would sit down on the bench and we would play.
Usually he had his program folded up in one hand, and I had his cross in his other hand. And I only found this out in later years, but our minister from the First Christian Church in South Bend gave it to Daddy when he went into the service. And it was very unusual. It had the Alpha and the Omega on it. And he had his little ritual before the games, of course. Kind of pull up his socks and pat his assistant and then turn around and look at Mother and she'd give him the high sign. And from then on, it was up to his team.